Hey, welcome back, y'all. It's Jarhead Bonsai. My name is Jared Paul. Today we're going to be hanging out at the ranch, checking out all the trees that I've set aside for protection during the winter from the cold weather and the wind so that they don't get their roots dried out. Really looking forward to spring. So let's go take a look at what I got. So we got a really strong draft and wind coming from seemingly every direction off of the pond and coming down from the mountain. So that's part of the reason why I want to put in a greenhouse horizontally across the base of the field, because that'll cut some wind coming up the hill as well. Primarily what I've read is that during the winter, the roots drying out is mainly what kills the trees. Your eastern hemlocks and white pines, they're really cold hardy. They're local here to Connecticut. But when I gathered them in the early to late fall, I dug them up, messed with the roots a little bit to get them into what pot I thought was suitable. And for me, only having about a year's experience with this, I was like, okay, that's enough. I'm not going to make any pruning adjustments. I'm not going to do anything to these trees until the spring. Let's get them and see if they survive. I want to do as little as possible. So I'm really excited for this spring. By putting it here between the house and the garage, I really protected these white pines and the hemlocks. You see I have quite a bit. The one over there, it was growing really tall and leggy in a terrible area. And so it's one of the few that I chopped and dug up, but I think it's going to be an amazing bonsai. I'll show you that close up in a minute. And then I have one specific eastern hemlock that, it's got to have 15 to 20 years in it already that I gathered, and it's just amazing. It's got natural deadwood already. So these are going to be the trees that when it does come time to prune them, I'm going to pool the audience and see if some more experienced bonsai guys out there have recommendations before I kill a beautiful tree. All right, let's move on.
That eastern hemlock, and I'm not even going to mess with any of that snowy ice because I think it's probably protecting the roots at this point, and then it'll hydrate them if we do get a melt, which we're supposed to. We're sitting at about 32 degrees Fahrenheit today in Northwest Connecticut. It is middle end of February. Okay, so that's that eastern hemlock. And then this is the white pine. And I know it doesn't look like much now, but I just think it's really cool. And the trunk's already got a nice little wave in it. It's nice and grown in nature, so the trunk thickened up. But from where I cut it there, for about another 6 feet, there was not one thing, and then maybe like a little Charlie Brown Christmas tree nubber hanging up at the top. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to chop these 6 feet off, dig this up as wide a base I can. Speaking of this one, as wide a base I can, get into a nice training bonsai training pot, and rock and roll. So I follow the techniques I've learned from the master, so we'll see.
All right, so I pretty much have way too many trees for the amount of wind cover that I needed. So I was really tucking groupings of trees in together to help keep each other warm and protect from the wind, and finding every nook and cranny possible. So through the winter, my property definitely isn't like ideal aesthetically, but for a tree hoarder and tree lover, it's fine with me. So you're not going to find this house in home and country from October through the winter. All right, enough joking around. So I've got a lot of these, baby hemlocks, eastern hemlocks. And, I gathered them if I really didn't think they were going to survive, or if they were in like a really, really terrible area that no one would see them. I wouldn't just grab a tree from nature that I thought, I was taking something that shouldn't be taken. I wouldn't do that, especially if there was the potential to kill it. So here's another one that I actually did cut, I guess, and that's another white pine. So let's see. You can get in there and see it's got that nice sway. And if something had, a tree had a nice curve or turn or something interesting to the trunk, you know, and it was at the base, just to be on the safe side, I probably planted it a little low, you know, just to make sure that it survived. So, I don't know, we'll see if I did a good job or not. So, for my birthday, Laura got me this bald cypress, and it's a deciduous conifer, so it actually, it looks like an evergreen, but it loses its needles in the winter. It browns up. So I've been trying to decide, it's got the most amazing tree bark, whether I'm going to keep it as like a Japanese garden tree, because it's not going to get much taller than that, and it'll just continue to weep and fall.
So rather than talk about it, I'll just show you. Look at the roots on this bad boy. Oh, that trunk bark. I love it. So you could see why it's intriguing to cut down as a bonsai. But, you know, I love a good garden tree, and since it's pretty much as tall as it's going to be, I don't know. I might leave it. I know if Laura has anything to say, I'll leave it. Anytime I go to prune anything, I have to wait for her to be at work or something, because the girl has a freaking heart attack. All right, so moving across the yard, I have an apple tree here, a couple of apple trees, and that was like a plan not to have a plan. We were just out one day at a nursery. They had great sales on apple trees, so we got a couple. Regardless of whether I keep them as full size or not, I'm probably going to chop them down. Because, you know, they grow them tall and skinny, because consumers, they think we're idiots and don't know what we're doing. So if it's tall, we'll pay more. And people usually do. So I got some blueberry bushes last year too. And I got blueberries because when I was a kid growing up, my grandfather had this whole hedge of blueberries, and that was the home run fence for wiffle ball. So that made me fall in love with blueberries, because my grandma would hand me a cup and say, you fill it and I'll have enough for a pie. And so back then I actually ate gluten and sugar and all that shit. And so, you know, I would. So right here I have some Norwegian spruce, and they were at a nursery down in Portchester. I picked up 3 on a really good deal. And then there is one blue spruce here, and it was naturally weeping, so I cut out some of the upward growth, and then the sun just made it spin upward. So towards the end of the season, it got kind of gnarly. So we'll figure that one out. And then there's a verbanum, and I pretty much made these garden trees to walk around, the veggies and fruits. This is a smoke tree right here. It gets really cool, different tones of green throughout the season. And then I got this cherry tree, this weeping cherry for Laura. And I believe that one has pink flowers. So I guess we'll find that out in the spring. All right, let's head up on the deck for the last of it. All right, so, you know, here on the deck, once again, I was looking for some space to put some stuff and protect it from the wind, so I held all these little ones together. So they're all different, but I grouped them together, you know, as best I could. So around here, I believe there's a couple of oaks, verbanums. I had a lot of verbanums growing in terrible places on the property, so I would cut them down and replant them, because they're just so vigorous. They grew back almost instantly, budding up and everything. And that was towards the end of the season, so they didn't get to do much. But I have a lot prepared here, as you see. I didn't take too much down. A lot of these are maples. Here's a river birch. And I know it's hilarious, because if you talk to anybody or show anybody that doesn't do bonsai, this is an apple. No. Actually, I don't know what that is, but it's got a really cool structure. So it has a big leaf too, so I don't know how I'm gonna work that as a bonsai, but here we are. But if you talk to people that don't do bonsai, they have no clue. They're like, yeah, that's a great stick looking in that pot. Oh yeah, that's a great hacked trunk. I think my favorite shirt that I've seen for bonsai is like trunk grower, or I grow stumps. All right. This is a really cool sugar maple. I don't know. I might end up trying to do my, I'm not going to try anything. I'm going to do my first air layering somewhere around here. I don't know. So the warrior mutts, my service dogs, Bruce Lee and Millie, he's 9 on the right and she is 6, but you'd think they were 2 and 3 because they never stop. So, you know, it's really tasteful having all of our furniture pushed up against the deck here, I know. But just like this, chicken fencing I had to put up. Millie, the little midget, will jump up, free jump onto the ledge there and run back and forth, hop over here and, like, you know, follow me to work. Well, it's in the garage, my gym. But anyway, she's crazy, fearless. So when I don't have trees and plants over here in the winter, have to set all this up to not only protect the trees from the wind, but to protect the world from the Millie. All right, so we'll just go through here. Oh yeah, she could free jump that easy. All right, so right here, I planted a bunch of peonies and what else did I plant? Poppies. And both of those are for the first time. So apparently you have to plant them before the winter. They sit in the cold, you know, and then they start to bud up. This is a birch. I'm not exactly sure which type of birch, but I absolutely love birches. Their bark, you know, through the whole fall foliage process, it's just incredible. And I've got some Thuja occidentalis. And these are hydrangea. I did a bunch of cuttings off of them towards the end of the season. I got them in the seed room growing. Here's another birch. I didn't cut that one and it really budded up, so I think that survives. A couple more hydrangea, definitely some more peonies and poppies. And then it'll be a shame if that blue spruce died. That was like my first practice bonsai, so that would suck. But you gotta experiment. You gotta learn where you're at, what can survive outside, what can't. I only have so much room in my house. All right, speaking of which, why don't we get out of the cold, hop inside, and check out what we have in the plant room, the main part of the house, and then in the seed room. See y'all inside. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for today's episode of Jarhead Bonsai. Thanks for joining me at the ranch and seeing what I have prepared for this upcoming spring. I'm really excited with the trees and the pre-bonsais that I have prepared. Check back in a little bit for all the progression of the different trees.